This book, our Constitution, protects our society and empowers us to govern. The protea leaves are us, the people, who freely elect our voices in Parliament. The drum calls the people of Parliament, through whom we govern together. And the sun is our country, healing our past, improving our lives, and energizing our potential. Together, our Constitution, our people, our Parliament, and our country are building our great South African nation. Parliament TV, Channel 408 on DSTV.
From the 16th to the 19th of September, the National Council of Provinces hosts Local Government Week 2025 under the theme Restoring the Dignity of Our People through Proper Spatial Planning, Provision of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation. This flagship program brings together Parliament, provinces and municipalities to strengthen oversight, improve accountability and fast-track service delivery. A key objective of Local Government Week is to strengthen intergovernmental cooperation in driving oversight and accountability within the local sphere. This year's focus areas are human settlements, water and sanitation, and spatial planning in the city of Cape Town, with site visits to Gugulethu, Danun, Khayelitsha, and Philippi. The program will conclude with a high-level debate in the NCOP. Catch us live across Parliament's platforms from 16 to 19 September and follow us on our social media platforms using the handle @ParliamentofRSA and visit our website www.parliament.gov.za for more information. Your Parliament, your voice, your future.
Dumela, good morning and a warm welcome to the special edition of our Parliament TV Build-Up Show. Libito la ka ke Tshepo Mori.
And I am Tembinko Singoma, and we're coming to you live from the Parliamentary Precinct on this crucial Friday morning, the final day of the National Council of Provinces' highly significant Local Government Week.
That's right, Teminkosi. It's been a week of intense engagement, starting with high-level presentations on Tuesday and moving into 2 days of hands-on, ground-level oversight visits across the Cape Town Metro.
And it all culminates today in a report-back session starting at 10 a.m., where all the findings from this week will be consolidated. Our viewers can expect a robust debate on the state of housing, water, and sanitation services for our people.
Now, over the next hour, we will be breaking down the key events of this week. We'll have a look at what exactly the delegates saw in areas like Khayelitsha, Danun, Gugulethu, and Philippi. We will also have conversations that will be lined up with two key leaders of the delegation who were on the ground.
Indeed, and later in the show, we will be speaking with Mr. Dennis Ryder and Mr. Begi Khadebe, who are House chairpersons in the National Council of Provinces. We'll get their first-hand accounts and ask them about the way forward for the National Council of Provinces.
But first, let's recap what has made this Local Government Week so noteworthy. So the week began on Tuesday with a firm foundation. The National Council of Provinces chairperson, the president of SALGA, and the ministers for Kokta, Water and Sanitation and Human Settlements all laid out their plans and challenges. And of course, community representatives were also part of this key engagement, and their voices were heard, bringing the lived experiences and realities of citizens directly to the national legislature. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, the theory met practice. Delegates, MECs and leaders from provincial legislatures embarked on massive oversight visits. Their mission? To personally inspect the state of service delivery in communities like Khayelitsha, Danun, Gugulethu and Philippi. However, the week was not without controversy. The NCOP chairperson expressed deep disappointment that the City of Cape Town and the Western Cape's Provincial Department of Infrastructure did not honor their commitment to join these visits. Now, this absence, she said, denied MPs the immediate opportunity to get answers to the pressing questions that arose from what they witnessed.
A very powerful recap there, Tsepo. And the absence of the city and province is a major talking point. It raises questions about intergovernmental relations and accountability. Let's listen to what the leaders had to say regarding the site visits.
As the NCOP, quite often than not, previously we would have the local government week where we gather together for the whole week as the heads of institutions, and then we then deliberate on issues, pertinent issues that affect local government without necessarily having to involve those that are experiencing the challenges on day-to-day basis from the ground. And therefore this time around we said no, we really need to change the manner in which we do this program of local government week. We need to incorporate our communities, the stakeholders, and we go on sites to look at the projects that are there on the ground. And we did precisely that. Our focus was around the Western Cape provincial government as well as the city of Cape Town. We are here indeed, as you can see, we are in Khayelitsha. The sites that we have visited is Site C, the Taiwan, the Mahama, Mandela Park, and the Silver Town. We must indicate that in line with the theme that we had, our focus was around human settlement as well as the water and sanitation. We've been here. Things that we have seen, they don't look good. We don't think that that is the way in which our people should be settled here, and that dignity has been eroded. The ablution facilities that they are exposed at, right from an early age. You saw a young girl who says that ever since I grew up, I know no toilet other than this. I'm 35 years today, having been using this toilet system, which is so inhuman, very much indecent, and there isn't any protection when you are seated there on the toilet. Those are some of the other things that our people are faced with on day-to-day basis.
Your parliament, your voice, your future.
You're still watching Parliament TV, and we are now joined by the Gauteng MEC for Human Settlements, Honorable Tasneem Motara, who has been an active participant in this year's Local Government Week. MEC, thank you so much for joining us at Parliament TV.
Morning, and thanks for having me.
MEC, let's go straight into it. You've participated the whole week in a full program of Local Government Week. I mean, from chamber debates to the local to the site visits. What is your single biggest takeaway from this week's engagement?
Thank you so much. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there isn't a single province, that the legacy of apartheid spatial planning is not invisible. It's extremely visible. It's something that we all grapple with. And I think the difficulty is that we have introduced various programs and initiatives and interventions, but they are extremely difficult to implement. And I think the realities of apartheid spatial planning are still very much a part of the work that we do, and the lived reality of all of us in every province. Western Cape is no different, and neither is the city of Cape Town. I'm responsible for human settlements in Gauteng. Yeah. We have got 800, just over 800 informal settlements. We face the same problems of overcrowding, the fact that informal settlements are by and large on land that is not suitable for, development, housing development in particular. It could be on wetland, it could be on environmental, land parcels. It could be on land parcels that are actually very dangerous. So you could be on top of servitudes. We have instances of informal settlements that are on gas lines, on ESCOM lines, etc., road reserves. So informal settlements, they force us to, of course, provide services, but in a very haphazard way. So you heard the chairperson of the NCOP speak about the toilets. You know, you have to provide ablution and sanitation services, but they are not conducive. They're just not dignified at all. And people don't live in informal settlements out of, you know, because they don't have, because out of choice, and that's what they would prefer to do. They live in informal settlements out of circumstance, and the fact that a lot of these informal settlements are actually established so that they are closer to work opportunities. They're able to, you know, commute to work, for the kids to commute to school and that sort of thing. And I think that unless, and you know, the ministers, two of the ministers on Tuesday, the Minister of Water, Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, DM Mahlobo, and the Minister of Human Settlements, Ms. Tembing Kadimeng, made the point that an informal settlement anywhere in South Africa is inhumane. And I think this week we were also just faced with that reality where we saw the inhumane manner in which people live in informal settlements here.
MEC, of course you are the MEC of Human Settlements specifically for Gauteng.
Yes.
And I mean, Gauteng is an economic hub. We know that people go there for economic opportunities, of course. In that, what are some of the challenges, especially with regards to planning, when it comes to spatial planning and ensuring that there is proper land delivery that is suitable for living conditions?
So we do have a comprehensive plan of, you know, developing. We've got land parcels that we are now preparing to develop that we own as provincial government for human settlements. We work in a very integrated manner with municipalities. I think the housing delivery space is the same in all provinces. So we are all funded by different grants from national human settlements. It's a concurrent function. So both province and municipalities have to play a role in the delivery of human settlements. In some municipalities, mostly metros, they are also accredited to build human settlements, you know, on their own outside of even provincial government. The plan is there, and of course, when we do purchase land, when we do plan for developments, it's on suitable land. It's based on what a municipality would have decided would be their spatial development plan broadly. But the informal settlement then disturbs those plans. So, you know, an establishment of a new informal settlement means that you've got to redirect funds that you had. You would have planned for it to do something X, but because there's an informal settlement, you've got to redirect that funds to provide a lot of times interim services, whether it's water, whether it's electricity, whether it's sanitation. It's not permanent, it's usually temporary, and it comes at a high cost.
And with that then, what is the province's most effective on-the-ground intervention support, especially in terms of the struggling municipalities, in accelerating the delivery of title deeds, housing projects and services?
So we probably in Gauteng, we account for the biggest backlog across the country. Again, it's because we are the economic hub. We are a victim, if I could say it that way, of a lot of migration into Gauteng. Neighboring provinces, people from across our borders migrate to Gauteng looking for all sorts of opportunities. So we have a backlog on housing demand. Countrywide, on those who have registered for houses, on what we refer to as the needs register, about 3 million people. Of that 3 million people, 1.4 million are those in Gauteng. So we account for almost half of all the people who have indicated they have a need for housing. It adds a burden on the backlog of title deeds. One, two, a burden on the backlog of delivery of houses. Our plan is really, of course, then again, human settlements housing is delivered in a subsidized fashion and is quantum-based. So you can make an upfront determination of how many houses you can build based on your funding allocation. Whether it's from national human settlements, we've gone to our own provincial treasury. But with the economy being what it is, we have a lot of priorities. Human settlements, while it is a priority, there's other areas that our own equitable share in the province has got to take care of. Our plan is really to make sure that we don't return any funding.
Okay.
Because I think that's the first thing, is to push and accelerate to the extent that we even look for additional funding. And then we would have gone the route of mega projects in the province. So mega projects are housing projects that you can build at scale. It's thousands of houses. It's also different typologies. So you have a mixed use of both subsidized and non-subsidized housing, even bonded houses. And we're giving life and reality to what human settlements is meant to be. So there has to be schools, economic activity, economic infrastructure. There's also got to be clinics, as an example, community halls, facilities, that sort of thing. With that, we also, if I give you a house today, tomorrow we start with the registration of title deeds, so that we don't create a new backlog. We've engaged SALGA, who is a big stakeholder for us.
Okay.
We've engaged SALGA to look at historic areas that we've not been able to issue title deeds. It is a conversation that SALGA, together with ourselves, different municipalities are having, for municipalities to relax the requirements on formalization. You know, for us to be able to issue title deeds, you have SPLUMA, which is a piece of legislation. SPLUMA is, it really governs the way a municipality determines how to use their land, Land Use Management Act. That's exactly what it stands for. So we are saying to municipalities that, you know, we have all townships that were developed before the enactment of SPLUMA. Can we look at relaxing the requirements so that we can issue title deeds? People have been living on in those houses for more than 20 years. I don't think they should be denied a house because there is no road and stormwater. But it wasn't a requirement when those houses were built. You know, and that is within the purview of municipalities. Some are opening up to that idea because it's going to give us a more accurate picture of home ownership. Because right now the picture and the data on home ownership is extremely skewed. There's homeowners, but they don't have proof that they're a homeowner because we aren't able to give them a title deed. And I think that's going to be the focus going forward, is the issuing of title deeds, not creating new backlogs, and making sure that the you know, that what we get as an allocation, we don't send back. We spend 100% plus if we can. And lastly is to look at block projects, which you know, even this week we interacted with projects that are blocked, incomplete. So in my province in Gauteng, I've got about 5,000 houses that equate to block projects, and I think that we have a comprehensive plan that by the end of this administration we would have completed all those 5,000 units to complete the block projects.
Now, MEC, of course, you've taken responsibility with regards to being responsible for the majority of the backlog when it comes to the issuing of title deeds, issuing of land and delivery. Now, with that, the common theme this week has there's been a tendency that different spheres sort of blame each other. I didn't do this, you didn't do that, sort of thing. Now, how is your department actively breaking this cycle and fostering genuinely cooperative relationship with the metros and local municipalities within Gauteng?
So, fortunately, we don't have, you know, we don't have a big us and them in Gauteng when it comes to human settlements. But, you know, like I said, the same sort of realities here, and this is part of Local Government Week. It's to be able to look at what are other municipalities or provinces doing so that we could either try it, introduce it because it's working. So one of the big areas is municipalities often delay with approvals. And I think we found that even here, and I think we've got to look broadly at how do municipalities just decrease their own, the time it takes internally for their own processes, because they do delay. Yes, they have to be thorough. Yes, they have to make sure that, you know, they've met, or we as a developer have met all the requirements from the municipality, because you don't want to start a project only to find that there's something that you haven't done in the planning phases. And I think I appreciate that. But there's something that has to happen in municipalities to be able to shorten the time that it takes for approvals. I mean, we visited a project in Philippi, which was initiated in 2013. It has still not commenced. So that's 12 years later, because it's still back and forth in the municipality through the planning processes. We work very closely with COCTA. So COCTA in our province, we really use the intergovernmental framework quite efficiently, where COCTA has taken on that responsibility to sort of be the mediator, if I could, the champion of bringing everybody together, because they have that authority. It's easier for COCTA to bring entities, local government, national government around the table than it is for me. So when I speak to a department like, let me take, for example, water and sanitation, because we have an indirect link, they may not respond as quicker as they would if it was COCTA. So we rely on COCTA quite a lot. We make use of them. Once a week, my colleague in the Executive Council, the MEC, who was also here during Local Government Week, he convenes just an infrastructure meeting with all entities, ESCOM, water boards, you name it, municipalities and all provincial departments that are implementing infrastructure. So it's education, it's Department of Health, it's myself, so that he pushes and drives municipalities. We find that works quite well. But I think that open communication is important. Constant communication is important, and just having everybody work towards the same goal. And I think for us, it hasn't always been that way, but it's definitely getting better with time.
MEC, we had a conversation with the president of SALGA, Councillor Stofile, during this week, and one of the key issues that we were talking about was capacity and resources within local municipalities. What are some of the challenges that Gauteng has in terms of resources and capacity within different local municipalities?
Look, I think the biggest challenge with municipalities is their ability to collect revenue, and that is that's the first big challenge. And it has gotten to a point where all municipalities are affected, whether it's a local or a metro. So we've got 3 metros in Gauteng, and then we've got local and district municipalities. The reality is that the ability of municipalities not to collect their income has a direct implication on their ability to, deliver services. That's the first. And of course, we are all fully participating in the white paper review process, because we have found that if we don't participate in that process and leave it just to municipalities, we're not going to get the outcome that we want to see the turnaround on local government. I think that, we have an in-principle understanding in the province that we pay municipal accounts. So our provincial departments must pay municipal accounts so that we don't contribute to revenue losses of a municipality. The Premier drives that quite hard himself. The second area that I think is the difficulty of municipalities, which they have been making a case for over a long period of time, is the funding model of municipalities. So, for instance, councillor salaries, who are public representatives, have to be paid out of the own income of the municipalities, whereas provincial and national departments' salaries of public representatives are paid from the fiscus. Secondly, is the model is split between heavily reliant on the income that you generate as a municipality with little dependence on grants. Granted, there has been over a period of time, and of course that creates the kind of situation that we have now, over a period of time, misuse of, or let me say misdirection of the use of grants. So when a municipality receives grants because they have got operational burdens and stresses, they sort of direct their grant funding to operations, which is not meant, meant to happen. I think you make an interesting observation based on the president of SALGA's comments on capacity.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, and we do see it even in Gauteng. You have more capacity in metro municipalities as opposed to local municipalities. And that stems from a situation where you have professionals that, you know, you've got to make a decision about your life and livelihood, your professional growth. Is there space for you to grow in a small municipality? And I think those are some of the challenges. But I think that if you focus on and get municipalities to focus on their niche economies, you could also have a turnaround on what the municipality could actually generate. I think that, you know, we always used to boast in Gauteng about our metro municipalities. They've gone through so many ups and downs to an extent that even the state and the health of their finances, you couldn't tell the difference between a local and a metro municipality. You know, the challenges were just the same. Our metros have begun to stabilize, which is good. You know, things like funded versus unfunded budgets, all of those types of things. But I think the white paper on the review on local government is going to assist and really get us to answer what was the intention versus what the reality is now, and find us have a local government environment that more speaks to the reality as opposed to what was the initial idea of what local government should have been.
And of course, Local Government Week was, there was a twist, right?
Yes.
And this time it was in the Western Cape, and you looked at the city of Cape Town. You went on oversight visits, you mentioned, and you mentioned some of the challenges that you guys saw as well. What is it that you saw that either surprised you or created an urgency and reinforced the urgency of interventions that you're thinking perhaps of proposing within your own province, specifically for human settlements?
Sure. So I didn't see anything that I would, you know, want to introduce in Gauteng.
Okay.
I think there's a lot that we actually do better in Gauteng. And I think that, and like I said, that you know, there isn't a better informal settlement. There isn't a better township. And the reality is townships and informal settlements are a remnant of apartheid special planning. And the fact that, you know, if you were to build subsidized housing, and the argument of subsidized housing or RTPs closer to economic opportunities, the apartheid spatial planning doesn't allow us to do that. There isn't space. I'm sure, I'm almost 100% certain, there isn't space closer to the Cape Town inner city center to build a subsidized housing development. We have the same situation. I think what for us is important is where we have taken our mega projects, mega developments in Gauteng, is to drive economic development from investors there. Because you have people, you have labor, and especially high labor-intensive industries. Because we're putting people there, you do have a labor base, you do have a base to build skills from, and what we've got to get is the private sector to move their investments in that direction and create new nodes of economies, not relying just on the inner cities and that sort of thing. I think that can be done. But to say that, or if you were to ask me that, you know, what have I learned? I just learned that Cape Town is in South Africa, and so is the Western Cape.
Now, MEC, the AG has reported poor project management, and this is throughout municipalities. And this is also something that we highlighted with the president of SALGA, of which he said that incapacity, and the reason why we find that the disarray within municipalities, the reason we're here is because incapacity goes throughout all three spheres of government, right? Now, with that, beyond oversight, what mechanisms is your province putting in place to ensure that there are real consequences for mismanagement of funds, for poor service delivery, and for people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
So, look, in Gauteng, we're quite firm on consequence management across. it's really driven by the Premier. Annually, we have an integrity commission in the province, and they look at the ethics commission. And so they look at your ethical environment of each department, and it's independent. It's an independent body. They provide, they get into your department, they look at the environment, they identify your weaknesses, they also make stern recommendations of what to do and what to correct. I think that we have had instances, look, human settlements is a space where there's a lot of opportunity for misdemeanors. My department has not been, has not gotten away unscathed from misdemeanors. We've had instances of people being fired. We have had a lot of disciplinary processes, etc. But I think that you've also got to change the culture and the environment overall. It definitely starts at the top, and like I said, we work well with it. The Ethics Commission in the province. I think we may be one of the only provinces that has such. They publish a public report where you can interrogate it and look at that. Our oversight bodies, our legislature is also quite firm, so very robust. They're always looking at what are you doing in terms of consequence management, etc. And we track that as part of our overall responsibility to make sure that we adhere to an environment of good and clean governance.
And with that, of course, we've seen a lot of service delivery protests, right? And a lot of them also include housing. What is your direct message, especially to the residents of Gauteng, who have lost faith in government's ability to deliver land, to deliver housing? How does this, and how does this week's program of the Local Government Week sort of aim to rebuild that trust with the residents of Gauteng? So what I find is that if you're not constantly or at least periodically engaging with communities, mistrust creeps in very easily. And I've taken it upon myself with my executive team to constantly communicate with communities. Even if we go into a community and to say that we're not able to do it now, we're looking at doing it in the new financial year. Even if you go every 2 months and say the same thing, people appreciate and understand that. If you create a distance and you're quiet, you're not giving any response, nobody is saying anything, people feel that for them to get any answer, no matter what answer it is, they've got to take to the streets. I think it's not necessary, but it takes a lot of you, and I guess that's why others opt not to do it, because it is a very it's a very cumbersome. It's very, very time consuming. It's for you to engage at that level. And I would say that sometimes you also feel that you're not doing anything, or there's no progress. Why communicate that? Yes.
That is important to communicate that the status quo is as is at the last at the last time we met, and I think that definitely does quell and quieten what would be protests. You will find that communities will threaten to protest unless they are heard. So they'll threaten and say, okay, we're going to protest if we don't get to meet the MEC. So if the MEC doesn't come, we're going to march to your offices. And all they're really saying to you is that we want an opportunity to be heard, and we want an opportunity to express ourselves. But protesting would be the last resort.
But MEC, and maybe probably it's because the culture that we have of protesting is because people probably feel that you have to burn your pants to sort of get the shirt that you've been promised, right? Now, in that then, you've talked about engagement. How is your department ensuring that there is proper public participation, and how does the public get to you to ensure that their challenges are heard?
So housing or human settlements is is such a hot potato because it's in your face. There's so many. I just gave you the stats of how many people in Gauteng are waiting for houses. So, and if you look at our budget, etc., how many houses we can build in a year, that's if we don't return any funding and we spend all that has been, you'll have many, many more people who are angry than those who are happy. That's the reality that you have to have to face up to, and that's what you've got to communicate. And I think that people have got to see what is happening, even if they're not the ones receiving it. So if you are able to demonstrate that this is what we're doing, this is where we're doing it, so that it's not a story that they can't see, touch, and feel. We invite communities, even if it is just for me to go into a community and say that we've submitted it to council, we've communicated to council, they are saying to us, so I always err on the side of caution. If council says to us, it should take about 6 weeks for us to give you a response, when I communicate to a community, I say, we should have a response from council within 8 weeks. Okay. That gives us time to interact. Exactly. Once the 8 weeks have passed and we have progress, you go back to the community, you say, okay, 8 weeks have passed, this is where we are, this is the next step. It's going to take, we think, another 10 weeks. We'll come back in 10 weeks and give you an update. People and communities do appreciate that. But they want to see, touch, and feel what you're speaking about. They don't want to read about it. They want to be shown what you're speaking about, and I think that's very important.
And as we finalize Local Government Week, what is the one concrete commitment that you are taking back to your department in Gauteng as a direct result of your participation of Local Government Week 2025?
For me, going back to the department is to say that we all suffer the same consequence. Okay. And I think that we shouldn't be disheartened that we're not doing enough. I think that's very important, and say that we've got to continue with our efforts to deliver on post-apartheid South Africa spatial design and environment, where we give rise to what the Constitution really espouses. People have the right to live where they wish, to participate in the economy. They have a right to human dignity, and that includes shelter, that includes access to water, that includes access to proper healthcare, education, etc. And I think that while the reality is at times extremely disheartening, we must never tire to do what we're supposed to do. And I think even if you're changing one life, do it. It's important.
Thank you so much for joining us at Parliament TV.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, you are still watching Parliament TV, and that was the MEC of Human Settlements in Gauteng, Ms. Tasneem Mutara, joining us here at Parliament TV and telling you about the outcomes of Local Government Week 2025. And those were her insights. And of course, you are still here on Parliament TV, and we've got more for you. Stay tuned.
From the 16th to the 19th of September, the National Council of Provinces hosts Local Government Week 2025 under the theme Restoring the Dignity of Our People Through Proper Spatial Planning, Provision of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation. This flagship program brings together Parliament, provinces and municipalities to strengthen oversight, improve accountability, and fast-track service delivery. A key objective of Local Government Week is to strengthen intergovernmental cooperation in driving oversight and accountability within the local sphere. This year's focus areas are human settlements, water and sanitation, and spatial planning in the city of Cape Town, with site visits to Gugulethu, Danun, Khayelitsha, and Philippi. The program will conclude with a high-level debate in the NCOP. Catch us live across Parliament's platforms from 16 to 19 September and follow us on our social media platforms using the handle @ParliamentOfRSA and visit our website www.parliament.gov.za for more information. Your Parliament, your voice, your future.
As South Africa leads the G20, Parliament will host the second P20 meeting of women parliamentarians in Cape Town from 29 to 30 September. The first P20 meeting of women parliamentarians was held in Brazil last year. This year, women parliamentarians from G20 countries, women from across Africa, and key international partners will gather here in South Africa to discuss issues affecting women around the globe. This second gathering will focus on making sure women's voices and experiences play a key role in shaping decisions on climate action and the move to clean energy, creating opportunities for women to fully exercise their power in economic decisions and development planning, securing resources and funding for women-led farming and business projects, and increasing women's representation in legislatures and elevating their influence in decision-making. The Women's P20 will culminate in the adoption of the Cape Town Declaration, a strong, united call for action and accountability on gender equality in Parliament and beyond. By hosting the second P20 meeting of women parliamentarians, Parliament of South Africa is demonstrating its commitment to advancing gender equality at home and abroad. For more information on the P20 meeting of women parliamentarians, visit www.parliament.gov.za or p20.parliament.gov.za. Watch the second P20 meeting of women parliamentarians on Parliament TV, DSTV channel 408, and follow the conversation on all our digital platforms. Your Parliament, your voice, your future.
Good morning and a warm welcome back to this live broadcast of Parliament TV on DSTV channel 408. It is a build-up show to the last day of the local government week debate that will be taking place this morning at 10 o'clock. And earlier, you had Tsepo speaking to the MEC for Human Settlements in Gauteng, Ms. Tasnim Mutara, just sharing some of the perspectives relating to this local government oversight week. If you have just joined us, like I said, you're watching us on Parliament TV on channel 408, and we are at Parliament Studios in Cape Town.
And of course, we are waiting and anticipating the NCOP chamber to convene at 10 a.m. this morning. And this will be a report back session for this week. As we said earlier, this whole week, Tuesday, we started with debate from all sorts of representatives all over the country, from all provinces, including Salga itself. Apart from that, on Wednesday and Thursday, there were 4 groups that went into the different locations, and that is Khayelitsha, Danun, Guguletu, and Philippi, where they did an oversight visit on the different areas to see what it was that was unsettling for the community members there. And we should remember the theme for Local Government 2025 is, of course, restoring the dignity of our people, with specific focus on human settlements, water and sanitation, and spatial planning.
And of course, we would have heard about this now by the City of Cape Town and the provincial government of the Western Cape to that local government week visits that took place in the last 2 days. As we have indicated that those visits to Kukule, to Khayelitsha, Philippi, and to Danone. And I wonder what impact is that going to have for cooperative government, considering that that is one of the themes for this local government week, and to see such as now happening, I don't think it's something that would be taken kindly. But we're hoping that we're going to speak to some of the house chairpersons of the NCOP so that they could take us through what transpired and what led to that and what will be the consequences of that. Because after all, we are a country that has 3 spheres of government.
Yes, and with that, because of course throughout the week we've been having conversations. We had conversation with Councillor Stofile, who's the president of Salga. We had conversations with the Minister of Human Settlements, Ms. Tembi, and with all of that, you get to see that the problems are throughout the country. Service delivery is a problem. Human settlements is a problem in terms of housing delivery and ensuring that the land that people live on is livable. The issue of ensuring that there is proper water and sanitation is also a problem. And it is not just within the city of Cape Town, but it is in Gauteng as well, like the MEC of Gauteng has highlighted. Now, the biggest question that viewers also probably have is, what is going to be the outcome of Local Government Week? What are some of the interventions that MECs and different representatives are going to bring back to their own provinces to ensure that these challenges are curbed?
And that is exactly what we're waiting to hear at 10 o'clock when that debate takes place. And also, as the day progresses, we're expecting that the National Council of Provinces will be making some recommendations that the MECs will be taking with back home for implementation. Like you said, Seppo, these challenges that probably the groups would have picked up in Cape Town cut across the country. We know currently there's a service delivery protest in Johannesburg that relates to water shortages.
Yeah. And of course, you can have all of that information with regards to the program and the outcomes of the Local Government Week. And you can get that information on www.parliament.gov.za. We're still waiting for the much anticipated NCOP chamber debate on the outcomes of Local Government Week 2025 at 10 a.m. You're still watching Parliament TV. Stay tuned.
In our own case as a country, we need to know that local government has done well over the last 8 years around access to basic services for many that were denied. But we must be the first to admit that there are serious worrying signs. There are issues of regression that we must attend to. We will need a lot of resources to do this work. In the world, we will need about $7 trillion so that we can achieve our SDGs. In our own continent, in Africa, we will need $30 billion per annum so that we can be able to address the issues of water and sanitation. That's why here in Cape Town, as part of our G20 presidency, we're able to hold the first Africa investment program by the heads of states and government. Then we're able to raise about $12 billion commitments for only this year, and we'll be in a position to commit. As South Africa, we will need at this stage more than R1 trillion so that we can achieve our goals of access to water and decent sanitation. What is the mischief that we are dealing with? One of the biggest mischief is the question of water security. Is South Africa going to run out of water by 2030? As we stand now, in terms of our water balance, in our system design, we have about 17 billion cubic meters in terms of our design capacity, whether it's the dams, the canals that are all here. But what is actually happening, the actual yield is around 15 billion cubic meters. You can think there's a deficit of 2 billion cubic meters. But in the country, the water balance is okay, but there are localized deficit. The very same problem you got in Cape Town at a particular point where there was a drought, and then water to be released from the other system, the Nelson Mandela Bay, they are localized deficit, but it does not necessarily mean that as a country we are running out of water. There's a new phenomenon. It's called the attack on critical infrastructure. The attack on water infrastructure and other important infrastructure is one of the pandemics we face. The right to access to water, the right for industries to operate, and many, many other rights, they are being affected by the issues of organized criminality. One of the organized criminality is happening on the issue of unintended consequences of water tankering. Water tankering must be temporary. Water tankering must be insourced. It cannot be a permanent fixture because municipalities, you lose what? You lose money. But more importantly, there are criminals there colluding with people inside the state. They destroy the valves, they destroy the system. And a report has been produced by South African Human Rights Commission with vets. We must deal with it. Sometimes they bring water that is not clean. Those tankers, they might be actually be carrying sewer at a particular point, doing other things. Even at an instance where some people want sexual favors, they sell that water. That's the problem. But then the attack on infrastructure is the people who are stopping projects. Water projects and other projects are not starting on time because the officials, the institutions have been captured. They don't agree who must get the tent. And some officials have been killed in other municipalities. We must protect the procurement, deal with the question of extortions, and the gangs that are carrying heavy ammunition, those high caliber weapons, where they can just stop the project. Because you start to pay one gang, the other gang will come and demand. We must handle that matter. A new risk around vandalism and attack on infrastructure is around the issues of digital attack. Rand Water is the best technology, and Umgeni Water. President actually launched a project of more than 600 million liters per day in Johannesburg. Guess what is the state of the art? We are using artificial intelligence, but we must attend to the issue of cybersecurity. If we don't do digital protection of our resources, we'll have a problem. That's how it can take different forms.
Today's stakeholders dialogue, along with the oversight visits that will shape this week's activities, aims to embody the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter's clear call for a local government that is by the people, for the people, and with the people. This means that ordinary citizens actively participate and influence the decisions that impact their lives. In this regard, our firm belief, and in making with the spirit of this moment, is that all social partners must come together, collaborate, and give greater attention to the challenges facing local government. This is notwithstanding the considerable progress made by municipalities throughout our provinces. To give context and policy focus, honorable delegates, one of the major achievements of our democratic dispensation enshrined in the Constitution has been the institutional transformation of this sphere of local government. Fundamentally, it restructured a system that was originally designed to enforce apartheid-era spatial segregation and separate development among different communities and racial groups in South Africa. As a result, it established three distinct yet interrelated and interdependent spheres of government, which is national, provincial, and local government. This reconfiguration repositioned the legal framework and status of local government, establishing a new municipal system with distinct objectives and a developmental agenda. Section 41, subsection 1F of the Constitution mandates that each sphere of government exercises only the powers and functions granted to it by the Constitution. Additionally, Section 41, subsection 1H requires that the spheres to cooperate with one another in mutual trust and in good faith, including providing assistance and support as needed. Over the 30 years of our democracy, local government has played a central role in mobilizing and coordinating government services that are aimed at enhancing service delivery and improving the overall quality of life for our people.
One, there are difficulties on implementing, particularly from the traditional leaders' side. We may have to go back and discuss the issues and the key areas in which Pluma wants to purport. In the first home housing financing, we are now receiving land from traditional leaders to build officially in what we call the rural edge of our cities and towns. But would you want to give a house that a person will be receiving a grant that a person may not be able to even apply for a title deed for proper ownership? And that is what makes land in those key special notes to be less attractive in the financing, even from the economic commercial banks. And if we deal with this partial framework then and its development informed by the shortcomings of SPLUMA and the areas in which traditional leaders could be of help to formalize those areas, it could only be able to accelerate quite a number of mixed model parcels as well. It is important for us to support everybody to stay where he or she wishes to stay. For you to be able to leverage in your own investment, it shouldn't be that you are compelled to stay in what we term urban edge areas because you could be able to claim. So SPLUMA can be of importance in ensuring that integrated human settlements are created even in rural areas. If you look closed into our chapter 8 of our NTP, it clearly demonstrates that as the leader of a human settlement, we need to ensure that we transform all our spaces without leaving anybody behind. So it means we must dictate, even bring closer the economic development direction towards the rural edges of our cities and towns to make sure that there is everything that becomes economic to follow in the direction that human settlements take our people. It is very interesting when an area which has been called rural, when municipalities start to become developmental and see under their own with no assistance, you see business being the first one to land there and take the opportunity away from that local municipality which has struggled in designing that area because they perform market studies and follow. Once you start to see a container of a retailer, you must know that that municipality has won. But as it gets to be developed, it gets to be taken away from them. In 2004, we adopted the Breaking New Ground policy, a comprehensive plan which was meant to develop sustainable human settlement. Cabinet introduced this plan to move beyond simple housing provision to create integrated communities. And we must say it's a stubborn realization to create integrated housing communities. Some who purport to be good ensure that it still persists. It grounds people outside the economic vehicle of what makes CBDs and cities. It forces people to still live way far where they are working. It ensures that it culminates the reality of people to experience municipalities as places where they work, live, and play. So the ground matter of the Breaking New Ground policy is predictated on developing sustainable human settlements. And today, in this week, we must ask yourselves, as you visit human settlement, particularly informal settlements, what makes it difficult for us to integrate these people meaningfully into where they are? And you will realize that integrating housing types and ensuring the mixture of what becomes blended financing will be the alternative. But beyond that, you will realize that support of our policy in line with the BNG structure, which enforces municipalities to ensure that our people are now localized 30 kilometers inwards into the cities and not 30 kilometers outwards into the cities. You will realize that they will force themselves into any open space if we do not realize this policy.
You are still watching Parliament TV as we wrap up Local Government Week 2025. And that was a recap of some of the speakers during the NCOP sitting that was held on Tuesday. And these are the presentations that were made by various ministers, MECs, and local government representatives, including SALGA, with regards to some of the issues and challenges that they face when it comes to human settlements, water and sanitation, and of course, spatial planning.
And correctly so, Tsepo, we've heard some of those speakers, which amongst others included the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Mr. David Mahlobo, indicating how well has local government done, but also admitting to the regression that we've seen taking place over the years, just like as admitting to a country needing about R1 trillion to achieve the goal of water provision. So from that statement, it just it gave me another impression that it's still probably going to take us a while before we can really come up with a solution in terms of the water shortages. And that also mentioning that, speaking on the organized crime in water tenders and calling for water tendering to be in-sourced rather than to be tendered out there to these people, highlighting a whole lot of other issues that some are not so nice to repeat, that he spoke about there relating to how we find ourselves to where we are in relation to water.
And of course, we're going to hear some of those outcomes because with Local Government Week, the NCOP with those representatives went on oversight visits. So it hasn't just been a talk show, but it has been a hands-on type of job where they went into these communities to see what the problems are. Of course, it is 10 o'clock and we are still anticipating the NCOP to sit down and talk about the outcomes of Local Government Week in terms of the presentations that were made on Tuesday and the oversight visits that were made over Wednesday and Thursday. Of course, it was concentrated on the Cape Town city, and of course, this included Philippi, Gugulethu Danun, and Kaya Licha. Hopefully, some of these oversight visits will come with proper interventions with regards to the challenges that are faced within these communities and, of course, throughout the country. Teminkosi, hopefully, we will get to hear proper interventions and tangible results when it comes to ensuring that service delivery is delivered to the people.
And I'm sure, Tsebo, even our viewers at home are sitting and waiting, especially those who were part of these programs when these delegations visited the areas you've just highlighted. So we know that our viewers are probably watching and wanting to hear that following those visits, what are the recommendations that these debates will come with, in order to resolve these challenges. We know when we saw some of the visits that the delegations overtook, it didn't look so well because we still see that some of the people, even for sanitation, they're still relying. Yes, it's no longer the bucket system, but there's those other similar to a bucket system that are still there, which we as a country had for some time undertaken to eradicate.
Well, let's hear what those outcomes are. The NCOP is sitting. Let's go to the chamber.